A lot of people come to Harare on a bus and they leave Harare on Land Cruisers. So it's a beautiful city. You find yourself buying a house, you have not interacted with council at any stage. Building a house, you have not interacted with council at any stage. And you get to the roof, then you must understand that your spirits have abandoned you. You have raised, everybody who gets a degree and becomes successful has got a vending mother story to it. So it's an emotive subject. There's anecdotes are thrown about. The moment you try to deal with vendors, everybody says those are the people who sent us to school.
A lot of people, they call you doing. Are you offended with that? I totally forget about it when we engage most of the time. Comrade, do you know a lot of people, they call you doing? Are you offended with that, or you are like, okay, these guys?
Yeah, well, you can't be offended by nicknames. We used to like the wrestlers. They could have called me West, they could have called me a bushwhacker. But
do you have any other nicknames?
I'm affectionately known as Harare One.
Welcome to Amplifying Voices for Change, the only podcast in Zimbabwe. Yes, I said it. My name is Zimbabwean, and today I have the pleasure of having our very first interview with a gentleman who, if I may be allowed to say, it's entertaining, slightly controversial, very vocal, and yeah, I believe you're fearless. You just say anything. I won't say anything, but you're very expressive, and this is his worship, Jacob Mafume, the mayor of Harare. So very excited to have you on our very first podcast edition. Welcome to the show, sir.
Thanks for choosing me to be on the first edition as well. The pleasure is all mine. I welcome you to the city of Harare as Harare One.
Harare One, yeah. Yes, I'm all the way from Bulawayo, so thank you for that amazing welcome. So like red carpets are all laid out. Thank you so much.
I'm telling Christmas carols and everything.
Fantastic. I have 3 questions I will need to ask you before the end of this program. Otherwise, I might not be able to go back to my city and face my friends. But before we get to those, Harare is a city of, like, I believe 1.7 million people?
Yes, so close to 2 million.
Close to 2 million.
Together with Chitungwiza, the greater Harare area, it's around 3 million to 4 million people.
And you are the mayor. These livelihoods are in your hands, literally. Everybody's lives, 2 million lives, are practically in your hands as Harare's number one. How does that feel?
Well, it's enormous responsibility. Keeps me awake at night. You're always afraid. A quiet day is a successful day. There's a fire here, a cholera there, a demolition here, an accident there. Everything happens in the city, and everybody expects the buck stops with you. Somebody's building elsewhere, people fall sick, they can't move. My Twitter handle, my WhatsApp, it's always constantly interactive with people trying to understand the operations of the city. So, of course, I'm proud that at this moment in time, I am the mayor of Harare. And I don't take that for granted. I believe that I have a purpose, and the purpose is to make this city a better city for the citizens and to create a foundation for it to grow in the future. So we need to get things right as a city.
You said it's a bit scary, fearful, and all that. But this is the second time. You went in the first time. Yeah. Are you a sucker for pain? I mean, why would you come back to all these sleepless nights and all this drama? Why?
Well, I try to think probably this is a way of doing my penance for my sins, and that the suffering I'm enduring, at least on Judgment Day, I'll ask the Lord and say, but I suffered the people of Harare. Maybe.
Do you have a lot of sins? Can we go there? Because for you to come back,
somebody
tell us about your sins.
Somebody has to do their penance, and for me, it's being the mayor of Harare. That I do believe that there are many highlights. Yes, there are constant periods of pain. You go to jail, you're arrested, you're threatened, but there's also the good times. Yesterday, on Saturday, I was officiating at the Chibuku Cup final. That's the first Cup final to be played in Harare since 2019, and it was a carnival atmosphere. It was a memorable atmosphere. The soccer was beautiful. The ambience was fantastic. It was the Harare of old. People were excited. The stadium was near full. There was a cacophony of noises, and it was a sight for sore eyes, and you could smell the happiness and the relief of the people that were there enjoying the soccer as the big giants, the Dynamos, took another trophy. And I felt that it is for days like this that sometimes you have to endure the pain.
Talking about fun events, we're going into the Christmas. I'd like to get the fun stuff out of the way. Please tell us more. The lighting, what events can Harare people?
Yeah, we're going to do Christmas lights. We've got a fantastic program with Delta, with Coca-Cola, the Coca-Cola Trust. It's going to be a fun fair at the Africa Unit Square. We're going to light up the Christmas lights. We're going to have Coca-Cola bunnies giving out cokes and drinks and all things that are fun. And Harare is a festival of entertainment. The shows have already started this weekend. People were spoiled for choice. There was soccer, there was burnouts, there was concerts, there were Christmas carols, there were concerts, and even the prayerful were not left out. They spent the whole night praying for those that were spending the whole night sinning.
And those with a lot of sins to
make
penance for.
Yeah.
You said it.
So, so it is fantastic. Harare is the place to be during a festive period. People like to have fun. People like to do a lot of stuff. And I'm happy that we have created a city which allows people to enjoy themselves and carry out their ambitions, entertain as well as make their fortunes. A lot of people come to Harare on a bus and they leave Harare on Land Cruisers. So it's a beautiful city.
That's a lie. I've been coming to Harare on a bus for how many years? Land Cruiser, wait, how?
It's the city of dreams. It's,
For the
you should
past
be.
15 years, I've been jumping on a bus. Night buses, chicken buses. And
You're getting the formula wrong somewhere. You should at least get your own little jalopy for you to go back and surprise everybody else back at home.
yeah, we'll have a discussion about this offline. Because obviously, I'm the small town girl. So before you became his worship, what was life like for you? What did you want to be when you grew up? And look, I don't want to go long time into that, but you must have had a life before all this, before the politics, before this, before the bling bling.
Well, I was just an ordinary short guy on the block, But as they say, dynamite comes in small packages. My profession was my idea of life was I was going to be a lawyer, marry a beautiful wife, have kids, live the life, visit, have a house in Harare, maybe a holiday home somewhere on Kariba, Nyanga, and stuff like that, and just be me. But unfortunately, I then realized that for you to create an environment or a country that you desire, you need to participate. You can't just criticize eating. You need to be part, you need to place, if you think things are not being done right, you need to place your name up for leadership. And the burning desire has always been not to ask of other people what I cannot do. If I want you to run things properly, I should be in a position to run those things. And that's the driving factor. If I was a student leader at school, I was the cliche prefect at high school, student leader. I left in many organizations as chairman, executive director, and so forth, and realized that probably I needed to step into the political fray for us to manage the city as how we want to see it.
From what you envisaged as being a mayor and the dreams that you had and the reality on the ground, is there a disconnect? Tell us about that, if there is a disconnect.
Yeah, there's a bit, the whole thing is people in Harare, in Zimbabwe, Harare, they don't respect their political leaders that much. I think there's a lot of disdain, looking down upon. There's a lot of stigma in placing yourself up for politics. No wonder there are very few professionals that want to be involved in the politics of the country, and except for maybe some of us who are tone deaf. But in the main, it's a very difficult task. You're vilified on Twitter, you're insulted, and everywhere. But there are pockets of appreciations. Like I said, there are days when it's all worth it. When you have help, like today, I was at Paramount Garments, where our fire brigade stopped the fire. The factory is working. 1,300 people kept their jobs. Yes, the other part, the 3-story building was put down. They are fighting with insurance to get that up. But I could see the workers as they worked. They've got targets. They've got an 80% efficient ratio, which is one of the best in the world. They're making clothes for the rest of the world. Wow. And I said, wow, this is it. And as I was thanking our firemen and I was looking at the people who were working there, I said, this is probably why I'm doing this. And when you go to our clinics, I've been to where we deliver close to 2,500 babies as the seat of Harare.
Every day?
Every month.
Okay.
People are not working that hard. We need to make babies your people. There's a bit of laziness. But anyway, we produce 2,500 babies, close to that every month in the city clinics. We put up a theater, a cesarean theater in Mavuku, where we are now in excess of over 100 cesarean operations that we've done. When we fight cholera and we defeat it, when we prevent many of these diseases, you feel, and even the mundane stuff of delivering water and so forth, and we could do more. But I think that it creates a sense that we're going somewhere and we're achieving something.
So that said, you've spoken about the success stories and all the fun stuff, and for a city as big as this, you obviously would have to touch on some of the various issues that are hot topics on Twitter, for example. City parking, city police, Harare expanding into peri-urban areas, the vending, the wetlands, and the demolition of houses.
Yes.
Yes. First, I think the hottest topic right now is regarding the demolition of houses. And my question, though, I'm outside looking in. I don't really know what your role is. I know you're a mayor. You wear the bling. You go out and cut ribbons and things like that. But maybe before we get into this, what exactly is your role besides being the guest of honor at places? And what is the role of the council as a whole? Maybe it will help people understand the bigger picture.
The role of a council is to manage the Commonwealth of Harare, to manage the rules. A city is an artificial creation. And as it is a creature of laws, a creature of statute, no city mushrooms. A city is made by the rules. The city of Harare began as the sanitary committee of Harare, where you put your litter, where you get your water, and so forth and so forth. That's what it needs to manage. In other words, development control. So we decide, we are the genesis moment of a city. We decide, we say there be a church, there be a club, there be a school, and lo and behold, a school is put there. And that's the primary role that we have. And then, of course, we then have to deliver services in complementary to that. Bring water, take the sewer. Take the refuse, manage the development control, because the society is conflictual and competitive by nature, and it needs to have that managed. And then you need to pool your resources in order to cheapen the things that you ought to do as a Commonwealth. So people agree to put their independence, and on top of that infrastructure, they then create a mayor who, on behalf of the people, is supposed to monitor that this whole machinery is working efficiently well. And so the development control of a city is a set of laws. So we just a set of laws that have to be followed. And that brings me to the issues around demolition and development control. So we then develop what we call a master plan. The master plan is got the force of law, as it complements the various planning acts that are there. And once we say this is what is going to happen, for instance, if we say there's going to be Joiner City there, there's going to be Joiner City there. There's an airport there, there's this there, the road, and so forth. So everything has to work within a system. Otherwise, other cities in the world are having to run away from the cities. If you go to Cairo, they are having to build new Cairo because the old Cairo became so chaotic that they could not make head or tails of what was happening. If you go to West Africa, most of them ran away from their commercial and other capitals years ago. Cameroon ran away from Douala to Yaoundé, Nigeria ran away from Lagos to Abuja, and the list goes on because the development control fell apart. People mistook freedom as a carefree attitude. So we have to enforce development control. Harare is the diplomatic, business capital, the government capital, and many capitals of the country Zimbabwe. And we have to manage this Commonwealth strictly. And therefore, when people decide, when you find yourself buying a house, you have not interacted with council at any stage. Building a house, you have not interacted with council at any stage. And you get to the roof, then you must understand that your spirits have abandoned you. Because at every point of you purchasing land, building it, you must interact with the city council. If you don't, you're most likely to build on land that is not yours, you're most likely to build in a manner that is not allowed, and you're most likely going to be visited by our inspectors and our development control mechanisms, and it will end in tears. And this is what I'm trying to emphasize. Lawlessness is an addiction, worse than drug addiction. Where a society decides to make laws and immediately thereafter decides not to follow those laws, then you have a big problem. And what we are trying to do is to remind people that Harare is the capital city. There are many other places you can live in if you cannot afford to live in Harare. This is not a refugee camp. Harare is an economic capital. So we are not going to allow it to be overwhelmed by illegal developments. Right now we are close to 100,000 unregistered houses. They are going to overwhelm the 322,000 people who actually pay for services in Harare. And we are increasing these 322,000. And these 322,000 households are the ones that are carrying this pear-shaped comical tower with 2 million people who are freeloading on 322,000 households. It's unsustainable.
100K illegal structures.
Yes.
100,000 illegal structures.
We are getting close to that, yeah.
So my question, I totally understand the aspect of maintaining law and order, and I was going to ask you if you'd actually said that, yeah, you did say Harare is not a refugee camp, and we have it on record now. Yeah. But my question is, how did the problem get to be such a problem without any intervention? And also the other thing for me is education. Are people aware? Has there been enough information done to actually say, when you're buying a house, people are generally ignorant. We've got so much stuff we're being hit with, running for water, waiting up for water, all this drama, all that. Is there room for people to have been educated?
That if you buy a cell phone in the street, you're asking for trouble.
So
you cannot buy a house as if you're buying tomatoes. You just rock up to some random dude who tells you that, hey, look, this is a house, buy. Isn't
your advantage legal background?
There is knowledgeable ignorance. People try to be clever. You are buying a house. There must be a ceremony. It's not as if people buy houses at regular intervals like they are buying tomatoes. This is the biggest purchase of your life, and you're buying it off the street without following any processes and regulations. You're asking for trouble. You cannot buy stolen property, yet somebody thinks they can buy a whole land without processes. It does not happen, and people must disabuse themselves of that notion. You cannot. There are some people who buy a stand in Belvedere for $20,000 and proceed to invest $80,000 on the house and then want to claim to be an innocent bystander. There is no innocence in a person who spends 80,000 US dollars on something that he knows if he were to buy on the proper market would have cost 60,000. You're not an innocent. You're a participant in a criminal activity. And we need to stop mollycoddling each other if we are going to build a city that is going to be matching in the world. Look, if I don't do it, somebody sooner or later is going to do it. I was in Cairo just a few weeks ago. They had to raise whole neighborhoods down just to make way for the highways. They put a network of freeways to deal with the congestion that is Cairo. Ethiopia is the same thing. Addis Ababa, they've had to raise whole neighborhoods to the ground. I am giving people a bit of pain to avoid leaving their children nothing, whilst they die thinking that they left them something.
But for kind of the Belvedere case, those guys, they were saying they were paying to cancel. They were paying rates to.
They were lying. They paid to no one. They look. We are not bushworkers. We are not people who run around getting a kick out of destruction. We apply the law to the letter. They know they are lying. I know they are lying. And they know that they were taking chances. They are betting men. They were hoping to succeed. They won't succeed. The chaos model of developing a city is not sustainable for a city of Harare stature. We are going to develop it following the law in a proper manner. Anybody who believes that, no matter who says it to them, that they are going to be where they are as betting men, they are asking for problems. We are a city of record. We keep records. If you don't purchase, if you have bought, our people read. We don't send ignorant people to enforce the law. They read. They will ask you to give them the paper that you were using. Where is your ZESA inspection? Where is the inspection of your foundation? Where is the inspection of your walls? Where is the inspection of your platform for a double story? Where is your certificate of occupation for your house? If you don't have that, you know you were not following the law. You know you were not paying to anybody. And we cannot pretend that they were. And why we were hard on the low densities, I understand we have difficulties in the poor areas, normally called the high densities, and that chaos there might have overwhelmed our law-making capacities. But the moment we allow such behavior to go to the low-density suburbs, we are now dealing with the economic infrastructure of Harare. The economy of Harare is based on the values of properties. All our industries, all our businesses is backed by loans given by the title deeds as surety. Once we start devaluing our suburbs like Borodale, Mount Pleasant, Belvedere, and so forth, we are then giving the economy a body blow which it will not recover. We need those values to go up, not to go down, through chaotic behavior that is being sponsored by people who are borderline criminal.
Time, the minister of Garwe, he was saying a lot of people the Harare City Council, they were overzealous. I think if I quote, they were overzealous to do that. So what are you going to do as them?
Well, English is a beautiful language. We are doing a very simple task. We read the law, we follow the law. Anybody who wants us not to operate according to the law simply changes the law. I swore an oath to uphold the bylaws. I swore an oath to uphold the laws. I swore an oath to uphold the Constitution. So I read the law, I apply it as it is written. And as long as it is written in the manner that I'm reading it, it will continue to be applied.
I have a question though as well regarding the whole establishment. There's illegal land barons and all that. In my layman's terms, I'm finding it difficult for somebody to just find some land and decide to bid without them having some idea of the size and whatever they'd have to do to plan. So in light of that, I'm thinking, okay, let's say by off chance, somebody's just bidding and found some land and decided to just start building. What would there not have been checks and balances beforehand to
People
actually
are
say?
speculators by nature. Some people even marry people they've not talked to. There's- they,
I worship.
I'm telling you. So people just, some others, people steal and so forth. People, by their very nature, believe that they can get away with things, and they've been allowed to do so. We need to draw a line on things that people can get away with. They must understand that you don't find this in Bulawayo. People don't just see land there, and immediately you come back, 8 months later you find it filled. You don't. You don't find that in Kweru. You don't find that in Mutare. There are many open spaces that we have seen there. They do things properly. Yeah. In Harare, there has been an allowance of such behavior, probably because of the proximity that we have to various interests and other people who can get a microphone in front of them and start speaking about areas that they have no jurisdiction over, and then create a pattern of behaviors. And like I said, lawlessness is addictive. Once a society breaks taboos, it continues doing that. Even kumusha kuna sabhuku, munhu wese anoziva kuti haungovaki usati waudza sabhuku kuti uri kuda kuvaka apa, haungovaki Blair usati waudza sabhuku kuti uri kuita zvakati, unomuudza. Now people expect a whole city to operate in a manner where you simply can build without telling it. It's not sustainable. You built at a school site, you built at a clinic. Right now, I'm inundated with calls. Why have you stopped? People have built on schools, houses are flooding.
Yes.
Children, wetlands, children are having to move 8 kilometers on foot to go to a school in the capital city. Clinics, people are delivering in homes because there's no nearest clinic. Someone built a house there. There is no shopping center because somebody built houses there. Children are resorting to drugs because somebody built a house on the field that they were supposed to play soccer. It's unsustainable. No, is it desirable? People built, I went to the sewer lines at Amalindi. Between some of our biggest sewer lines, they've destroyed them, and they are using a human waste as fertilizer for their maize. And people say, I must allow them to build and continue building there. It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. It's unsustainable. You've got spinaches with leaves the size of tables, tomatoes the size of heads, feeding from sewer, being sold to people. How do you do that? How do we allow the spirit of lawlessness to engulf a whole city for whatever pretext? At one time, people say there are elections. At another time, they say they are SADC. Today, they say there are rains. Tomorrow, they say there's the sun. The day after, they say there's winter. Can someone give me the correct weather to apply the law? Which is the correct weather for the application of the law? Do I wait for the rain to finish? Do I wait for the winter? Do I wait for the sun? How do we then apply the law? We are not a refugee camp. People can live elsewhere. If they cannot sustain, you can't go to Dubai and see an open space and start building. You can't go to some city there and see an open space and say, I'm starting building. It's not going to happen. All the cities that we are admiring, like Kigali in Rwanda, they were not built by or developed by a laissez-faire attitude towards the law. They were not. There was a deliberate effort by every society. Even the littering that is there. People throw things out of the cars. Yes. People take their private parts at bottle stores to relieve themselves when children and women are passing by. In other countries, if you do that, you're a sex offender. Here in Zimbabwe, people ask children to look away and women to look away while they are busy throwing axe like they are at a river bath.
Your Worship, two very pertinent questions that come up for us right now first of all, is there anything happening? Is there any action being taken against these land barons? Is there any course of claiming back money? Is there
The,
anything in the
the laws of the country have to be changed. We have to go after the land barons. They are not even land barons; they are land thieves. Okay, calling them land barons is actually glorifying a bad practice. They're just land thieves. You rock up at a place and you say, "This land, I'm now selling it." You're a thief. So why are you called a land baron? A land baron is a position of status where it originates from in the UK. It's somebody who has land and is a baron because of that land. Or a factory baron is the one with a factory and is a baron. Now here we call a land baron, a land thief, a land baron. We should call them by, so the first is the mental thing, which they should be called by their names in the press. Land thief so and so has stolen land and sold it to these other people. Then you have their name. Here we are busy arresting people who steal maize cobs and put them in jail for a long time. But a person who steals the whole land is given a nice sounding name. We need to criminalize such behavior so that people are not victimized. Then people have to understand, when you are buying property, if kumusha, you have to go to a sub. The moment somebody prevents you from going to a city council or the title deeds when you are buying land, then know you are betting. Know that your stay there is temporary and that you will always have contested title of that land. And know that most importantly, you have nothing to transfer to your children should you leave this earth. So it must be common knowledge. And the Harare citizens have to understand that. There's a point where we need to make the people in Harare understand it. Other towns, they do understand that. And they live happily ever after. But here, because people don't understand basic concepts or try to corrupt basic concepts, they then cry out when the consequences of their behavior visit them.
Are you not worried that the same conditions that allowed these land thieves to actually start working will actually prevent them from getting prosecuted?
My job is to make sure that I enforce the land development control of the city of Harare. There are other people who have their jobs to protect people from being victims of crime. And those people have to properly define these criminals, and they have to do their constitutional mandate. We have the police there, we have other arms of government that they have to do their work. I am doing the work that I have been mandated to do at the current moment. Should people want to promote me to do other work, I'm willing to volunteer myself. But at the present moment, I'm doing the work of managing development control for the city of Harare, and that is what I'm doing.
And is there any preventative measures in place to actually prevent land thieves from actually building to such a point where it's foundation? If you can actually get to a point where you're just breaking down a foundation instead of letting it get to roof level for so many houses, is there anything, checks and balances in the future?
Yeah, we're going to do that. Part of the problem that we have is the constitutional provision that says that if you build a home, one has to go to court to evict people from that place. And unfortunately, our framers of the Constitution did not define what is a home. So somebody constructs a panel, a room, 3-roomed panel. They start working on it on Friday, and they finish it on Monday. By the time you get there, you'll find that it is now being called a home, and therefore you cannot destroy it. And while you are going to court to try and get rid of that panel, somebody is building the main house. Court processes can take you 6 months, 12 months, or a year, and then you have a house. So there's that exploitation of a clearly human rights meaning clause of the Constitution that is now being taken advantage of by the land barons. So even a cabin structure that you buy for $80, once you put it on a piece of land, you then can claim that that is your home, because the Constitution does not define a home as a brick and mortar apparatus. So we need our courts to assist us in the definition. Probably they need also to say a home is a place that has been approved by a council and has followed all the processes. Because if we are going to call anything and everything home, then we will have a situation where Theoretically, somebody can set up a shack at Africa Unit Square and say, this is now my home, hang some few nappies and so forth, and have a little baby running around, and then say, go to court for me to evict me from Africa Unit Square.
Okay, so, I appreciate the way you framed it, because in my mind I came with this big conspiracy theory that city of Harare had these people in cahoots, and they were half-stamped documents, somebody parceled out land, and it was just that whole aspect as well. But is there a role of having had previously city council people involved in actually being a part of the parceling out of the land, and was anything done to bring them to book?
Yeah, we've suspended a lot of people. Corruption is, it takes a number of people. It's a group thing. It's not it's not a one-man activity. So you'll find that they are connected to the police. For instance, if a land baron wants to take a land, what he does is that he offers a few stands to the local police station, local administrators, and so that everyone has got a stake or is contaminated by that invasion. And therefore, you'll find that there's lethargy, there's people turning the blind eye, and so forth. So it takes a bit of undoing, because it's a scrambled egg, so to speak. But at the end of the day, we need to be able to call it what it is, to apply the law as it should be applied, and then we will bring back order. And then people must understand that our master plan process has got the force of law. And we are not going to shift around clinics. We are not going to shift where there ought to be roads. We are not going to shift where there ought to be schools. That we will have schools. If you go to Harare South, children swarm across a highway so that they can go to school to Highfields, Glenora, and Glenview, simply because people built houses and didn't build the primary schools and took over the space where they're supposed to be primary schools. A child then has to walk kilometers and to cross dangerous roads for them to go to school, and some are drowning as they try to cross rivers at makeshift places, simply because somebody was selfish to build at a place where they ought to be a school. So we're not going to tolerate that. We are not going to allow you to be there longer than is necessary. No matter what you say or what any other person says, there's going to be a school there, there's going to be a clinic at that place, so that we manage the common good. We can't treat a person with a diarrheal infection or cholera at a certain settlement, and we have to drive them across the whole city, infecting the whole city, while least we should be able to operate and deal with you at the site of your infection. And the list goes on. We've got Caledonia there. 180,000 voters. That means about 300,000 people with no known school, no known clinic in that place. Harare South, White House, Desert, all around, Dombosha, there, all around the city. We are making people live in medieval conditions. As if civilization is starting. It's not practical.
Your Worship, I think you've thoroughly exhausted the topic of demolition.
But the major question is, vanhu vari kuti imi musiya sei vanhu vachizobuilda tanayo hopefully tanayo yatopo kuseri kwemenwe kune inonzi chi retreat yatovakwa yatoko, but
people must not be contextual in their analysis of events. Those things were done during the madness of Chombo and Kasukwere, where they allowed people to invade all those places under the things that they called cooperatives and so forth. And the people then settled willy-nilly as they ought to be. And then other people then developed the habit as we went on. And then we couldn't deal with the development control. Everybody knows there was elections. After elections, everybody knows there was SADC. When we tried to deal with the issues after all of us had become SADC chairpersons, there's rains and so forth. So then others said now it's raining, there will be winter. Others say there will be winter. And I'm asking, can you put a law that tells me when is the right weather to apply the law? In the meantime, the land thieves do not stop building. They will give people, you see, the government is allowing you to be there. Please build. This thing is kosher. So any hesitance on the part of the lawmakers creates an expectation of lawlessness from society. We become in an informal agreement to live closer to animals than closer to an orderly species.
Okay, the other question is, Twitter saying wana rufamba mafambira kada iso muchwano. Zurati munyazo kutsanangudza nemuchwano. Twitter saying wana rufamba especially wana ku Hopliwa wana ngochenda ku Highfield menwe vari kuuya kumbare na Sunning Day vachifamba. Zvogadziriswa sei because watopo vanhu ivava meya. Mavhotsi wa muri kuenda futi muri kuwada futi mavhotsi wa munomaka wada mavhotsi munomaka kumada. So point ponzwi why is it my ballot papers anoenda ikoko kunokusiri kuri illegal but kana my elections apera my ballot papers achaenda ikoko. What is happening?
Well, what we are going to do, this is not about voting per se. If the place was supposed to have a school, that's why we are removing the houses that are built on skills. If there was clinics, so that those children do not have to cross that other thing. And that work is going to continue. We are going to remove people who are at schools. So my suggestion to them is that they must remove themselves before we come to remove them. They must go to the local district council, ask them, where I am, what is supposed to be here? If someone tells you that there is supposed to be a school, it is not clever to keep investing and building a mansion at that place, because we'll uproot it, okay? And we'll put the school there. And this is going to happen sooner rather than later.
Okay, another question again. Even, sorry to digress, but during my elections, my ballot papers are not in those areas. And yet we say my elections appear those people are very illegal. But during the elections, my ballot papers, they find the way. You find a way. You build makeshift toilets.
The challenge is you're conflating elections. The election you're talking about is the general election for every Zimbabwean who votes. And one of the challenges of this country is that we harmonized our elections. So you must remember that there's an election within an election. And the council election is one of the harmonized elections. I, as the mayor of Harare, at this moment, I'm worried about the voters for the Commonwealth of Harare. Those are the ones that pay rates in Harare, the ones that vote for the councillors in Harare, the ones that want litter removed from their houses, the ones that want water delivered to their houses, the ones that want clinics built in their areas. And those can be affected by the generalization that you are talking about of a harmonized election. But the Harare voter, when they are voting for a councillor and voting for a mayor of Harare, they are looking for somebody who will take care of the interests of the Harare voter. And that is exactly what I'm doing. I will let those who worry about the national election worry about the national election. Those who worry about the parliamentary election worry about the parliamentary election. For now, I'm talking to the Harare Commonwealth voter, the one who wants litter removed from his house, sewer to go away from where he deposited it, and water to come and to his house so that they can go about their business. And that voter cannot be harmonized in misery with the rest of the other voters who they voted for a completely different purpose.
So maybe just to round off the demolition discussion, in terms of service provision and rates, what impact has it had on income collection as well? Because if they are not, from what I understand, they're not registered, they don't have meters or anything, how does that affect? And do they expect services from the city?
They complain the most. They complain. You see, because unfortunately disease does not understand our boundaries. Diarrhea does not ask you, are you a registered voter? before it affects your cholera. So we have to treat everybody. Every child has to go to school. We have to educate everybody. Babies have to deliver. Every car has to be on the road. We have not introduced urban tolling as yet. And sewer has to go from an illegal person to a legal person. So we have a challenge that the 322,000 people that are registered are shouldering. And what has happened is we've had to increase the rates every year on these people because the illegal settlements are increasing. So there's pressure on the roads, there's pressure on our clinics, there's pressure on our schools. So we are catering for more people than are willing to pay. And it's unfair. We are punishing law-abiding citizens so that we can forgive those who do not want to follow the law. I do not understand it. I do not follow the argument that people think they can come to Harare where somebody else is paying for the infrastructure of Harare. They expect to enjoy that infrastructure without paying anything in a capital city. And we are supposed to speak and mollycoddle them, to say, we are sorry that you built here. We are sorry you didn't know what was supposed to happen. We apologize. We are very sad. But somebody is paying. Somebody is paying for the clinic to be there. Somebody is paying for the sewer to be moved. Somebody pays every month. We use 34 megawatts of electricity at Morton Jeffrey. That costs $3 million US. We use chemicals that cost $3 million US per month. And you're not paying a single cent. And you're expecting service from those people. It's downright unfair, downright illogical, and cannot make sense whichever way you look at it, upside down or downside up.
So, Your Worship, I think you've clarified the issue of demolitions to everybody's, well, there won't be everybody's satisfaction, but you've laid the law down as it were. It is what it is. It's as cold and true as that is. It is what it is.
It's as clear as the court's behind.
Sorry, what? I didn't catch that properly.
It's gone.
Play back. Vending and the impact of vendors on Harare's economic business structure, and paint us a picture. What's going on in terms of that?
We have a conflict of uses, and again, it's another difficult topic. People's mothers have raised, everybody who gets a degree and becomes successful has got a vending mother story to it. So it's an emotive subject. There's anecdotes are thrown about. The moment you try to deal with vendors, everybody says those are the people who sent us to school, and makes you feel very guilty about clamping on that activity. We have to make a choice about our city. Do we turn the whole city into one big vending machinery, or do we confine our vending to other areas where we can build the infrastructure? And that is what we're trying to do at Mbare now, together with government, to build a new veggie market, try to see whether we can replicate it across town so that we have vending at designated places, and then that will allow the other shops to flourish, so to speak. So we have a challenge. There is lack of employment. People have to resort to vending to survive. At the same time, those that have shops are saying that the vendors are crowding them out. They have to pay the rates, yet someone is vending outside. So if you go to our shops in the suburbs, now they are crying to say, look, Mr. Mayor, we are paying your rates. But outside, we have the vendors selling what we are selling in the shops. Previously, vendors used to sell, ancillary or complementary goods. But now they will have the exact same thing that is in the shop, milk, shoe polish, blah, 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 the whole array of goods, yet at half the price in US dollar terms, and then choking the supermarkets out of existence. So we are going to have to find a balance. Increasingly, there are sections of town that we are going to make them no-go areas for vending. First Street, we're going to take it back. It's going to be like Bank Street. We're going to create a quadrant of areas where we will not have that kind of behavior. Then other areas where we will try to create designated places and licensing. I can see that there is an increase of boot sales of food from car boots. So we are going to see if we can legalize mobile kitchens, proper like what happens in other countries, so that we don't have these boot sales. And then and look at the sanitary conditions of the mobile kitchens or the truck takeaways, and so that we avoid the difficulties that come with people selling food from the boots of their cars. So it's a delicate balancing act. While I empathize with the vendors, I also empathize with the need of for us to create a formal economy and a formal society.
Absolutely. Well, I suppose I appreciate the fact that you're looking at alternatives to managing, like you're saying, have mobile food trucks as well, and that will also ease congestion if they're mobile and they can just be all over the place, as it were. But in the bigger scheme of things,
the sanitary, it's like if you see the fish and chips kind of setup in some societies. So there's a truck that they close, people buy. There's a toilet nearby where they relieve themselves should the food cause unnecessary problems, but and things like that. So that's what we're trying to do.
So, but I suppose the vending aspect is not just affecting the actual shop owners who pay licenses and buy shop licenses and rates. All these people in one place every single day, eating, needing to relieve themselves, and all that other stuff. Is there a time frame to be able to actually say we're going to have to fix this? Because think of the health hazards. I'm thinking of cholera and
we needed to do it as of yesterday, but we are working on a new waste management regime. We're going to bring a private actor. We are also working on a hard laws in terms of littering, in terms of throwing away garbage, workspaces around. We need hard laws. In other countries, you get fined heavily for spitting. If you are in Dubai, in Singapore, you spit, it's a huge fine. Here, people relieve themselves in the streets sometimes.
What will it take for us to get to the point of, for example, just dealing with the litter, just dealing with offenders?
It's improving the
education.
Yeah, it's education, hard law, and improving the infrastructure.
Okay. All right. And I remember, like back in the day, years ago, we actually had drives in primary schools. Pick up papers, do this and that. I know I'm probably bringing another dimension, but it inculcated, it just
a sense
kept us, it's a sense of ownership and things
yeah.
like that. And from what I've heard in the last couple of decades, that hasn't been happening. There hasn't been education to say, hey, pick up your papers, you catch them young. That's why the buses are throwing stuff all over the show. Is there any broader
we will need to do an education campaign, a hard law campaign, and we need to have attitudinal changes in our society for things like that, because it's a behavioral. Zimbabweans are very adaptable. If you go to any other country, they don't do the bad things that they do in Harare. They just cross the border at Bay Bridge. The driving becomes chaotic. They just adopt the spirit of not following the law. They throw litter anywhere. They will sing while it's urinating in public, and so forth and so forth. But if you cross the borders, you find that they are touted as model citizens in the UK, everywhere. But they just come into Zimbabwe. They believe that they can behave anyhow, drive anyhow, behave anyhow. And it is that kind of entitlement that we need to put a stop to. And we need to put a stop to it very fast if we are going to live in a society that has an ambience that is good.
So you're saying something in the air in Zimbabwe that just makes us be chachara?
It is an addiction to lawlessness, as I said earlier, which addiction to lawlessness has created a conspiracy among the rulers and those that are ruled that it's all right not to follow the law if you have a good reason.
Oh, Mayor, on vendors, nalabvunza zoni paninge kuzoni ma vendors aniswa nima political parties and PF nisana kuside kwawo, CC sana kuside kwawo. Why do you allow politicians to bring their people and not paying to cancel and then have control after that? Some streets like China, there's violence between CC vendors and ZANU-PF vendors. What's your comment on that?
Well, we need to put a stop to any political influence around those issues, and to the extent that that happens, it's very bad, and that is what we need to put a stop to. We must understand that at its very essence, the law is being put in place to assist us. It's not an inconvenience. And should it prove to be bad, there are platforms to change it, Parliament, and once they change it, we will follow the law as it has been changed. But my understanding that the laws that are there were put in place to allow for us to live in harmony and to regulate our behavior. And once we digress from it, we will certainly run into problems such as the problems you are defining. It's good for us to all contribute to a commonwealth. No one is going to help us fund. If you want to get infrastructure, you contribute to it, we do it in an orderly manner, the infrastructure will improve. And that is all I am saying, that at some point we have to drag each other towards an orderly society by the ear, if needs be, so that we all live very well. We have traveled. We admire the seamless efficiency of Dubai. We admire the seamless efficiency of Cape Town. We admire the restoration of Kigali from a hamlet into a city. And for us to be like that, and we were like that, and we are closest to being a well-developed city, more than most of those cities. And all we need to do is to simply regulate our behavior. Is that hard to ask?
Yeah, Mayor, when are we expecting the changes? When are we expecting the changes, the whole changes?
That's why
because every mayor, we are even everyone. I don't get mashoka. You are even I still remember Mr. The previous mayor, Masunda. Masunda. Kind of the city, vision 2020, vision what? 2025, Tatoshiga 2025, whilst in the avenues, Marara, Asto Visika,
yeah.
Whilst in the first street, right now, our town, every corner,
Yeah, that's what I said the last time, that, and that's why people scream a lot, because I move. That's why you are crying that properties are going down. That's why you are crying, because we are moving. And we are going to move. If I'm not delayed by various organs that seek to delay me, I move. I have mentioned before that we can't have a city where people drive into town to drink beer. I've mentioned before that we can't have a city where someone drives into town to change the color of their nails. It's not sustainable. We can't have a city where you come into town for an all-night prayer. Come into the city where the only people are awake during the night are people doing all-night prayers and drinking. That's not sustainable. We need to have a better design and a better use of our cities. This is not a beer drinking place. This is a city of production. And the more we allow such behaviors to continue, the more it's going to be downhill for all of us. So we'll put a stop to this immediately. We are going to see changes in the waste management as we partner with government, the private sector, and ourselves. We are going to see changes in the water. And I've said before that Vision 2025 was done in 2012. The Vision 2025 included infrastructure such as Joiner City and other infrastructure that you see, the shopping.
Good cut you there. Joiner City is the only building I have in 1980. No new building.
There's also, let me do the listing. A world-class city also included the planning for an airport. The airport has been upgraded to a world-class status. I've traveled a bit, and I know that our terminal competes with most of the modern terminals you can travel to in the world. The world-class city included Cloverleaf Junctions at Mbudzi. The Cloverleaf Junction very soon is going to be completed. The world-class city included the upgradings of roads like Lomagundi and so forth, and those have been upgraded. It also included shopping centers such as Highlands shopping centers and many other shopping centers that are coming up in Harare. It included cluster homes and townhouses. You can see that some of the townhouses that people are living in is the life. We now need to deal with the software issues. That is the issue of removing litter and providing water to everybody else. And we are closer to that, I dare say, than we were some years ago. And the fact that people are complaining about the software issues, the infrastructure for the city of Harare compares to South African cities. You can't compare it to any other cities within the region. That is the infrastructure that we have here in Harare, and that has been developed even during the years of difficulties. So I sense that we are at the brink of success rather than at the brink of failure. Once we get the things that we need to adjust them correctly. And this is not from a point of lack of traveling. I have traveled over 25 African countries. I have been to all the major capitals in the world. So those who believe that it is lack of exposure after they've gone to work as a nurse somewhere, it is not that.
Can you really compare Harare with other kind of progressive cities like right now in Ethiopia, Addis Ababa, Kigali, or
Harare,
even in South Africa? A lot of people.
Harare is a beautiful city, bro. Harare, most of those cities cannot tie the shoes of Harare. The problem of Harare is not the hardware of a city. The problem of Harare is the software issues, the service delivery issues, that is removing the litter. Harare has got addresses. Some of those cities do not have addresses. If you're talking about Wana Addis, if you're talking about Wana thing, that's why I was saying some of these cities, that's why they are building New Cairo, okay? If you go and you drive towards the pyramids, you'll understand what I'm talking about. It's unplanned growth everywhere. Go to cities like Dar es Salaam, you'll understand what I'm talking about.
Yeah, that one is cheap.
Yeah,
but
in
South Africa.
Go to South Africa. Harare will fit in to any medium-sized city in South Africa. We've got the DNA. Our issue is maintenance. Not that we have a bad city. Our issue is maintenance. You know, the potholes, the conveying of water, the taking away of rubbish, and the taking away of sewer, and the lighting. And that we can do it. And we have had major infrastructural developments since then in terms of how you get into the city, how you live into the city, the buildings, and the shopping centers. And once we rebuild Bare and we get a mass public transport system, we will catch up very, very quickly. And I'm not saying this from a point of lack of exposure. I have been to all the capitals in Southern Africa. I've been to all the major capitals in Africa. I'm trying to imagine which capital I've not been in Africa. I cannot find it in my head. So I've been there, and not on account of because I'm a mayor. I used to work before I became mayor, and my work involved a lot of traveling. So we are speaking from the point. Harare to, and of course we need to deal with the informal settlements that I've been talking about. That is where we are getting it wrong, and that's why I'm hard on us stemming that process so that we stop it. But the other suburbs, what we just need is to repair their roads, give them lighting, take away the rubbish, give them water, and restore their recreational areas, and everybody will appreciate the value of Harare. It's a good city every day. The weather is beautiful. Today is beautiful. Almost 350 days of the year in Harare. The temperature is mild. The air is fresh. And so forth. No. I mean, the by and large, if you drive right from here, right, in other cities, you can tell where you are by the changes of smelling in the neighborhoods. But here in Harare, if you travel on some roads, going to the parliament, there's no pressure on your lungs. So we need to maintain this status. And we are there, and we are almost getting it right. But everybody needs to contribute their part. The ratepayers, everyone has to register, and we have to use the money properly.
Yeah, okay.
Back in Bulawayo, the city of kings and queens, we have a burning issue regarding parking, city parking.
Yes.
And from what I've heard and seen, it's just as contentious here. Probably not as contentious as in Bulawayo, because for us it's been a new development. But what have been some of the issues? People are complaining about the pricing and the availability of parking, but still, given that there's still congestion within the CBD, please just shed some light on that. Is there anything being done to...
Yeah, ours is different from Bulawayo. We own the company 100%. In Bulawayo, they gave it to a private actor. I don't know why they did that. Maybe it was best for the residents of Bulawayo. But here we own the company. All the revenue comes back to the city. It does not go to a private actor. And we use that revenue to buy equipment, and we have been buying that. The complaint previously was that the town was heavily congested. People could not move, emergency vehicle services, they could not get anywhere, and people were hogging the parking spaces. As you know, parking in the world over is at a premium when you go to the city. So it has to be regulated. And the price depends on the currency. It's $1 in US, but it's falling. It's a fraction of that if it's paid by Zig and so forth. So it's a moving target. One day people complain. After a few days, they are no longer complaining because they are paying it at a reduced rate. So, but we believe that we ought to use the money more in a visible manner, take care of the street lights, take care of the parking places and in town. But the world over, the cost of parking is huge. As you know, even in cities like the UK and Dubai, they can auction one parking lot close to a prime place, close to £1 million and so forth, for you to be able to park there. Parking is real estate. You cannot have traffic flow in a city if you are not making the parking getting paid. And the shop owners will complain as people stay there, and others who want to shop can't come in. There might be a harsh operations. We will deal with the pain points that the citizens are suffering, but we make sure that we clarify why it is like that. But we also need to move away from being a car-based society. Husband has a car, wife has a car, child has a car, gardener has a car. 4 cars are leaving one household to be able to go into town. We need to improve our mass rapid transport system. University of Zimbabwe is 7 kilometers away from the city center. I do not understand why any student needs to get into a car to come into a town. We need to improve our bicycling culture. This is almost a flat city, and that if we develop cycle tracks, should be easy for people to cycle. Previously at the industries, people used to come to work cycling. So we need to demystify the issue of ownership of a car and remove our transportation from being car-based, so that we stop inconveniencing the the citizens. It's good to ride bicycles, it's healthy.
Cycling in Harare.
That's where we need
It's
to
bad enough trying to walk in Harare and anything cycling.
Yeah, but we
And
need to
it
improve
is-
the driving and the safety.
Or maybe it's just me.
No.
Who's scared of Harare?
Your pain point is clear, and we need to. That's why I was saying the driving etiquette and the driving culture and the behavioral issues in Zimbabwe needs to be attended to. But we need to redesign our transportation model as it is. It's not sustainable to use a car-based transportation model for a city as big as Harare.
So essentially what we're saying, the congestion is going to continue as and when people decide to either carpool or use...
No.
effective
We are going to
transport.
take measures. We are going to continue introducing new measures to deal with congestion. We are also going to work,
Higher parking fees?
not higher parking fees, but the quickest method is to develop a mass-based transport system that is efficient. If we can develop an urban rail system, it's cheaper than you think. I don't know why people are complaining. We have the steel here in Zimbabwe at Manize. We have concrete making factories, and we have quarry just here by the airport road.
Like little trains like zipping through the city.
Yeah, like your tram, like your zipping through the city. The city was designed with trains in mind. If you look at our train, it leaves NRZ and it goes through all the highly populated suburbs. So even before, it was designed with urban train in mind. That's why sometimes there was that freedom train that was introduced.
Yes.
So if you see our railway, as it leaves Harare and goes to Bulawayo, it passes through Highfields, Glenview, Buliriro, DZ, and so forth, and then goes to Bulawayo. So we already have, at least for our populated suburbs, that DNA. What's needed is to connect it to the rest of the town.
Eish, I hope I live to see that day.
tichiri pacity parking apa ndine bvunzo nyaya yecity park necity council police. These guys vese vakupolisa parking and that creates room for corruption because now vese vakumhanyisa kuda kusunga munhu. Hapanewo yekuti one vasare vachipolisa motikari because otherwise maresidents anga achitorwa mari necity police necity parking wawangutsika line chaunonzi $57, then the industry no ndipe $30 so that's about $57, ndipe $10. So imim also you're creating room for corruption because my charges yakawanda and also there are two people who are committing kusunga munhu because they make sure kuti vatangira kusunga city park city police ichitangira kuti city park.
Well, there are 16 traffic bylaws that we enforce. We are only enforcing about 4 of them. If we were to enforce the whole bouquet of our... it won't be a disaster. They are designed. You are not allowed to change your tire in town. There's a bylaw for that. You're not supposed... Yes, you're not supposed to open your boot and repair your vehicle in town. There's bylaws for that. There are bylaws for many of the things that you're not supposed to wash your car, you're not supposed to come into town with a dirty vehicle, and so forth. So the list goes on. But these are enforced in other cities. That's why sometimes you see other cities appear to have clean vehicles. Those are enforced by law. It's not that people like to clean their vehicles. But here, like I said, there's an addiction to lawlessness. And therefore, if you enforce the laws as you ought to do, even law-abiding citizens that you would think are law-abiding citizens will complain. So there are 16 bylaws and increasing that deal with traffic. City parking enforces only 2 of those bylaws. That is the bylaw of going into the parking lot and paying for it, and the bylaw of parking properly. In other words, not straddling the thing. Municipal police deal with other bylaws, dangerous parking, cleaning, and so forth. The list goes on. But we have not even allowed them to enforce the full bouquet of the bylaws. Were we to allow them to enforce the full bouquet of the bylaws, I see people complaining to me to say, look, I was wanting to jump my car and I was fined for it. You're not supposed to do that. I was supposed to change the tire of my vehicle. You're not supposed to do that. This is a city. You can't do that. In other cities, they enforce it strictly because they've got high-moving traffic lanes. You can't stop on the highway yakagadzirwa yaya muJoburg mota dzichifamba at 120 kilometers iwe wakamira ipapa uri kufonera John hey we are on the jambe did they say no it does not happen. It can only happen here because we've got an understanding that from time to time people need to break the law for their convenience, but at some point for the greater good we need to bring uniformity in the applications of the law. City police corruption, I think people have we have to deal with it. We need to create hotlines. We've got a zero tolerance, but unfortunately, our society it takes two to tango. People offer a $5 because they don't want to pay the excessive fine. They offer $20 this year and things like that. But we are going to create a more e-based city, which has less human interaction. Like other cities, we are going to increasingly become technological, and I think that is the best way of fighting corruption. The less human interaction on many of the processes of the city that are there, the less that the system is prone to corruption, because you will then be speaking to artificial intelligence or to systems that we have created, and that is where the city is going. Once we have our ERP in place, we will begin to interact with people more and more on digital platforms.
So,
so it's okay. Maybe to jump on the other issue of street kids. My street kids are not gays. I'm street CBD. Na first menu muri kutaura isiri festive. Munotovnani kwa zvinhu. One, the street kids. Two, ndo vari mota dzacho ndo dzarogeza vanosiyiwa vachiita zvavanoda. You have a Department of Social Service in City of Harare.
We've got a department. We are trying. There's a program that's being done by the First Lady, where she's taking some of the street kids. We send some of them to Russia now. They are going to schools and they are being taken to Chambuta. It has worked successfully for those that we've put there. We are going to expand such programs. The problem with our cities currently is drug addiction. What is happening is that these people would not ordinarily be street kids. Our mothers were able to deal with various forms of delinquencies, but there's a delinquency that our mothers are unable to deal with. They cannot and are failing to manage a child who has become a drug addict. And because the chemical imbalance in the brain is such that the drug addict cannot even recognize a mother, and they've been throwing them out. And we need to have a drug rehabilitation program in earnest, and we need to clamp down on those that are peddling drugs, because this situation is going to worsen, and this needs a whole government approach. It's beyond what a city council can handle on its own. But we are going to create zones where we need to remove them from the city centers, and they will be removed. But that's the hard law part. We need to have a rehabilitation program for them, as you suggest.
you bring up so many issues. We started off with housing, service delivery, city police, city parking. Is one mayor enough for this whole city? Are you coping? Not because of incompetence, but because of the sheer number of people. For example, you spoke about Bulawayo and Mutare and all that. Bulawayo is claimed to have 700,000 people. Mm. One mayor I would think is good enough. 2 million people plus your issues and all this is do you think a co-partner, another 5 mayors or something would make things easier?
Do you think people want more of Jacob Mafumi? But some might say one Jacob is one too many. But look, what we need to do is to look at our governance infrastructure. We need to restore back the executive mayor. We need to make it a full-time job. I'm actually working full-time as it is, but I'm earning $90. I earn the same allowance as the mayor of the chairperson of Mwenezi, whose only business enterprise is a factory making mukumbi, which makes beer from wild fruits. And then there I am managing a capital city. So we need to look at our governance infrastructure. We need to allow the city to have executive persons in charge of certain portfolios, like for metropolitan cities, like regional ministers, as they have in South Africa, someone in charge of health, someone in charge of secretarial, maybe 8 or 5 of them, so that at least we can push this big city, as so to speak. But that's, I agree with you that little is given, much is expected.
Yes, because I mean, also in light of the other issues I was just going to touch on, the issue of Harare expanding so much. It's already this big, and you're expanding into the peri-urban areas. How is that going to affect service delivery? I know there's so many issues that are waiting.
Yeah, and other cities and the 8 authorities that surround Harare, they pretend that their people are in Harare. So Manyame will sell stands at its boundary, so that people can pretend to live in Harare. Goromonzi the same, Zimba the same. Everybody around Harare sells their land at the periphery of their land, so that people can pretend to be living in Harare. It's fine, but we need to do it in an orderly manner, planned and in a well-planned manner, so that we can provide services for all these people. And the people who are getting services from Harare can pay to the right person. So you have people living in what they are calling Sentown in Zimba. They are basically getting all their services from Harare, yet they pay their rates to Zimba Rural District Council, the same as Goromonzi. So we've got to have a deliberate purpose in our planning models, because at the end of the day, these are the people who then have vendors and other things that come into town, and yet they are not contributing anything to the Commonwealth of Harare.
Okay. I know it's spoken about this and touched this on the demolition of houses and being built on specific zones that are not meant to be there and things like that. But there's a specific one. We touched on wetlands and the importance of wetlands. What is the importance of wetlands? Because you'd be thinking, oh, just drain the water, fill it up with cement and build on the houses. That seems to be the mentality. What is the importance? What do people need to learn and know about wetlands?
Oh, this is part of the ecology. Human beings are parasitic, and we destroy. And unfortunately, we are one of those parasites who destroys the host. We die with where we get our food. And then the problem of Harare was that Harare was built on its water source. So the wetlands were our water source. And then we didn't build Harare downstream. We put it on top. So these wetlands allow us to breathe, allow the land to revitalize itself, our water sources to revitalize themselves, and also are very good for the environment. And we cannot keep destroying our wetlands, so to speak. So we need to have a culture where we maintain this, and we are required to do so by law. So what we are going to do is we're going to increasingly protect the wetlands and make sure that activities that are done on wetlands are not harmful to those wetlands.
Last point of concern, fires. I believe you have recurring fires in Glenview and Mbari. And what's the cause? What's being done to prevent such fires? Lots of infrastructure has been lost, and what's going on?
So we're going to modernize. It's not only Mbari and Glenview. There's even in factories, even in because of the adjustments that are being done to buildings, even in the city center, service stations, and even homes, because of the erratic supply of electricity and surges and so forth. They create fires, and the use of gas to cook and so forth. So we are going to increase our fire engines. We are going to increase the equipment, and more importantly, we are going to create water centers where we store water in areas where it is needed most, and make sure that our fire brigade and our fighting people can do it. We have also created an emergency services levy, which we are going to ring fence and use to maintain and re-equip our emergency response systems in a more deliberate way. We're going to increase the inspections and also increase the drills that people do at their workplaces and homes.
Not to be cynical, but you're saying you'll have water centers. You're already struggling with having water delivery to certain areas right now, and now we're going to have special water centers.
It's a consequence of the failure.
Okay.
So if we fill in a tank, we create a tank at a specific place, which is water and by protocol required to have a minimum amount of water. We can then make our fire engines use that water.
Okay. I could. Sorry.
It's okay. Okay. The other issue also, it's not about us taking windy towns and but it seems as if they're back now. They're the guys who are controlling transport. Even office paying and how are you going to deal with that?
Well, these are cartels. They are very powerful. We attempted to deal with them the last time. We failed by an interpretation of the law that was in their favor. We had said that we are now charging commuters as they enter the rank. It then turned out that for us to make them charge, we needed to include it in the budget of last year, and we had not included it. So it fell away. But in this year's budget, we've included it. So we are going to manage the entry of our commuters into the ranks by ourselves, and we are going to make them create associations such as they've done in Bulawayo and register those associations, pay the routes, and people will have to be members of that association, and also they will pay as they enter the rank. And then that will bring order into the ranking system and also remove the touts. And to make it additionally problematic, they are part of the political ecosystem, and sometimes there is huge interference to maintain them because of their uses elsewhere. But there is a need to put order in our transport sector and also to develop our termini. They are the most unpleasant places to be. There is no cover during the rains. There is no cover during the day. You can't wait for your bus in peace. You are no areas to relieve yourself as you wait. And it's generally part of what people hate about the urban commute. So we need to remove that as an object of inconvenience and discomfort to our citizens. And that is the work that is going to be done once the budget is approved by the ministry.
And the issue of public toilets.
Yes, and
public toilets amusina Harare.
Yeah, that is
the only public toilet ilipo inotobhadhara ndeva na Jason Moyo.
Yeah.
The other public toilets, they are in a messy.
Yeah.
And sometimes they are closed, Mayor.
Yeah. So that's the problem. That is why we need to assist, because our public toilets were based around where people commute. So you'll find that Copacabana, Market Square, 4th Street, Chinhoy Street, and so forth. So once we start bringing order to these places, we'll then use the money that we are taking from those to improve and expand our public toilets. I've seen at Copacabana people queuing to get into the toilet, and my heart it strikes, particularly for the women, they queue. It strikes a particular chord in my heart, and it's an unpleasant feeling.
We're talking about budgets and service delivery, and you have mentioned that, first of all, residents owe you a few millions for you to be able to deliver service, but also in terms of the national budget, how much is allocated to you, and is it it's obviously not enough, but what more would be required for you to be able to come together and deliver services effectively based on both rates and the national budget?
Yeah. What has been allocated to us is limited and is not does not meet our requirements at all. And I've emphasized before that cities that we admire the world over were rebuilt by funding from national governments. That's Dubai, that's Kigali, Singapore, and so forth. The city is the baseline for the development of the nation, the capital city in terms of business and so forth. So we keep complaining that the funding is not adequate. And some of the ring-fenced funds are not coming, like the devolution funds, like the Zinara funds, like the health contribution funds from the Ministry of Health. All these funds are not coming. We used to have a street lights levy to keep public lighting. People are expecting us to do public lighting because I can't bill anyone for a light that is in the street. You understand? So we used to have a street lights levy. It has not come back. It is now called the rural electrification levy and lightening the rural areas. Yet we need lights in our place. Our consumers need that. So we need to bring back that street lights levy and other revenue streams that are coming from central government. So we have a feeling that this has fallen short in the current budget. We want to try and keep engaging the Ministry of Finance to see how we can expand the contribution of government towards the development of cities. This is the golden goose that lays the golden eggs. So for it to keep producing golden eggs, we need to feed the golden goose. And the golden goose is finding nothing to peck in the national budget.
And talking about service delivery, as we wind down this conversation, what would you say are the City Council's priorities in terms of service delivery, like as we stand right now? What's our number one
Our
issue?
number one, the biggest pain point for residents is lack of water. Now, residents want water. If they don't have water, it's a big, big, big problem. The next pain point after the water, because water is important for drinking and for our sewer. The next pain point after water is refuse collection. They want the refuse collected. The next pain point after that is roads. They want their cars to travel in good roads. The next pain point is lighting. They want to have their streets lighted and to have light. And we are going to put up a solar plant. We need to, you remember that the thermal power plant was owned by the city, the one that is at Colcom, and was taken by ZESA. We are in negotiations with ZESA to bring back that power plant, but also in lieu of the royalties and other properties that they took, they can assist us to create maybe or to build 100 megawatt or 200 megawatt solar plant, and we will be able to take care of the energy needs of the citizens of Harare. And then the last issue will be development control. People want to be able to see that the clinic, people are not doing illegal things, and so forth and so forth. So those are the major priorities as far as I can see and the feedback from the residents.
Are you optimistic about recovering the debts from what the residents owe you on a totally professional level to say?
Yeah,
Is it recoverable?
Yeah.
Do you think it's going to be recoverable or it's going to be reduced?
We might have to adopt the ZESA approach. Once we develop smart meters or prepaid meters, we can then put the debt in those prepaid meters. Remember how ZESA got rid of its backlog. So that's where we are going to have to go as a city council. We are in discussions with ZESA again. So the debt will be paid. The only problem is that our services, we give you a service first and you pay for it later. And we're the only organization in this country that is still doing that. We first do the work and then you pay us later. And that's where people are taking advantage. They pay us when the money has lost value.
Oh, I suppose the water issue is also another topic that we do not have time for, like the water being a basic human right and then billing it. Okay, no, we're not going to go there at this point.
Yeah, but it's the biggest pain point for the residents. The last dam for Harare was built in 1976. That is Manyame Dam, and the population was close to 500,000. 3 million people later, no new dam was built for Harare. Dams have been built in game parks where there are fishermen and crocodiles and so forth, but where there are 3 million people, no new dam has been built since independence. And that's a sad affair. Chitungu is a city of close to 1 million people, has no dam, has no water source, relies on Harare. Same with Rua, same with Norton. It's on the shores of Manyeme, but cannot extract the water. So we need to increase the water sources. Kunji has to be finished. Muchekaranwa pipeline has to be done. And the bigger dam that is in Musani, closer to Musani, there has to be built for the Harare. There is people who are willing to pay for the money in Harare. It's just that the dams are not being built in Harare. After that, we have to improve our infrastructure and to deal with the energy situation, because electricity is a huge cost for water. And once we deal with the water, we should then be able to deal with the livability in Harare.
Mayor, what is stopping you guys to build the because ndakutochina ndebvu kunji ichingonzi kunji ndakatanga ndakadai kusvika ndaregister for water because we constantly hear these kind of problems kana tine problem. Why is it atisukuti hapana parombogadzirwa kuti alright tambopedzawo kunji dam since 2000 pamakauya imimi mauya since 2000 kusvika apa nhasi? Why is it atisatane kana dam kana
there was a lot of disinvestment in Harare. It is only now that under my tenure and under the current government that we are cooperating, and there has been more investment in Harare than ever before. There has been a belief that everything happens in Harare. People have forgotten that Harare makes the most money for the whole country. And why I emphasize all the time that I speak that give what is due to Harare, what is due to Harare. If you take care of Harare, you take care of the whole nation. If you allow Hararians to be productive, I've just been from a factory where there are 1,300 people. It's operating at 80% efficiency. If you go there, and as I was working at Paramount Garments, they've got the latest equipment that is being used anywhere in the world in producing textiles. You need to make Harare work. And how do you make Harare work? Is by reinvesting in Harare as a nation, making sure that Harare is operating at optimum productive levels. That's why I emphasize that Harare is not a refugee camp. No, Harare is it a charity organization. If we want to help the homeless, if we want to help the poor, the country is big. Let's put them elsewhere where we can help them there. Harare must produce. Its industries must work, continuous working. They have maintained continuous working because they've put solar at Paramount Garments. So they are on solar. So work goes on non-stop. So we have to reinvest in Harare. And any model that does not invest in Harare as a capital city is doomed to fail. Our people need to be able to get to their workplaces on time, live on time, get water when they need water, so that they can concentrate on working for Zimbabwe. And that is why we need Kunji to be finished. They must continue building all these dams in other provinces, but they end up saying now we are wanting to export water. You know, you finish Toko Mkosi and say, what do we do with the water? Someone says, let's export it. But here we've got Harare, where people can drink the water. You build the dam, we will drink it, we will sell it, and Harare will be more efficient. We need to build Harare. Hospitals, the last major hospitals was built before independence. Power stations, since that power station, there's not been any new power station. Water plants, all those things. You take care of the golden goose that lays the golden eggs, and the whole country will have golden eggs. But that's why we are cooperating, or why I'm developing synergies with government. Other people want me to be the mayor who insults the government. Anybody can do that on Twitter. Anybody can do that at their homes, and it will not have an impact on the residents of Harare. I do not believe I was elected to be conflictual with the government. I was elected to complement with the government and to get what I possibly can get for the citizens of Harare so that their lives can be better. My results matrix will not be measured by the number of tweets I have written insulting the government. It will be measured by the number of people who will tweet that today there was water in Mavuku and tomorrow there will be water in Mavuku. Today sewer was taken, today rubbish will be taken. That is my result framework matrix. If I get that, If I do that, then we will have taken care of the interests of Harare. And that cannot be done if I'm engaged in a pissing contest with government.
That sums everything up. That is actually one of the 3 questions I was supposed to ask you. How do you balance party politics with national politics? And like you've just summed it up. Thank you. It's okay.
Okay.
And we've talked about everything. Well, practically everything. So, what are your plans for Christmas, Your Worship?
I'm so not much. You know, I come from Mashingo, so you know we Mashingo people. Christmas is just going to the rural areas, killing a goat or a cow, as the case may be, and then eating with the whole village, and then sitting there asking where so and so who has gone to Cape Town is, what happened to them, and how many children others now have, and so forth and so forth. I'm looking forward to village gossip. I'm looking forward to sitting by the fire, eating the remains of a dead cow or goat, as the case may be, and a couple of chickens with my father. And fortunately, my mother passed away, but we will be with her there in spirit or in our memories, and the whole family. I am going to drag them. I don't think
Kicking and screaming.
Kicking and screaming, they just have to enjoy it, because I will be enjoying it thoroughly. That's for Christmas. The last Christmas, unfortunately, I spent it in Budiriro, where people were being drowned. The rains messed it up. I had to rush back to Harare. We have taken measures to avoid that happening again, and I do hope that I will have a better Christmas and these other things. But I'm wishing everybody here, you included, Zwa, a Merry Christmas, and the residents of Harare a Merry Christmas and a happy New Year, so to speak. And I'm assuring them that we are laying the basic line for a rebound as the capital city, and that once we put our ducks in a row, which we are about to, they will see significant changes at the turn of the year that will impress them.
A lot of people, they call you doing. Are you offended with that? Or I totally forget about it when we engage most of the time. Comrade, do you know a lot of people, they call you doing? Are you offended with that, or you are like, okay, these guys?
Yeah, well, you can't be offended by nicknames. We used to like the wrestlers. They could have called me West, they could have called me a bushwhacker. But
Do you have any other nicknames?
I'm affectionately known as Harare One. I prefer that. I prefer that many times more. But it is what it is. It's public office. People who want to make fun of you will have to find a way of making it in a way that can bring out a few laughs. But I think we all have laughs about it. It doesn't affect me much or at all. It is what it is. And the joke is all on us, so to speak. But it's the hazards of political life. You need to get a nickname one way or the other. You can never be everyone's cup of tea, and it doesn't work. We need to keep focused on what we need to be doing. And at the end of the day, when you hang your boots, you will say, the motto of my school in primary school was to do the best that I can. And so at all times, if I've done the best that I can, I'm satisfied.
I think my key takeaway from this interview with you, there's one phrase, addiction to lawlessness. I said it about 7-8 times, so I know I'm probably going to make up addiction to lawlessness. I want to do something stupid. Addiction to lawlessness. Your Worship, thank you so much for a very informative meeting.
You know, you're a sight for sore eyes.
Now my train of thought is, how do I come back from that? Like, okay, yeah, all right. I'll be waiting for my fortune. People come to Harare in buses and they leave in for driving their own fortuna. So that's my other takeaway.
It's the city that makes millionaires and billionaires. It's the city of dreams.
And shattered dreams. Like, oh, there's so many broken ones. Yeah. But Your Worship, thank you so much for your time. It's a very busy season for you, totally understand. But thank you for being a part of this conversation. I look forward to having another conversation with you, like updates, like what's going on, what's been done. Like as soon as something else happens, you said there's going to be fireworks and not at Christmas time. Fireworks actually in the service delivery. We're looking forward to that. Thank you so much.
Always a pleasure. You're welcome anytime.
Fantastic.
Thank you.
This was Amplifying Voices for Change, our very first podcast today, the only podcast in Zimbabwe. And I was having a very interesting conversation with His Worship, Councillor Jacob Mafume. And I came in here wanting to just be on the attack and all that and just fight. But I was disarmed. I just, no, not with the fortuna, but with just the legalese and just some of the basic things that we need to understand about local councils, government, and service delivery. So it's been very informative. I hope you found it as informative as well. You're tuned into Bustop Tv and